Joining us for live analysis tonight is Batya Ungar-Sargon. Of course, she is the host of NewsNation's Batya. Batya, thank you so much for making the time tonight, and I'm interested what you think about these new poll numbers. We see a majority of voters indicating the disapproval of the Trump administration policies of ICE. The president's approval rating now hovering at 38%. Is a major issue bubbling up for Republicans come the midterms?
You know, there's about 40% of Americans who want every single illegal migrant deported, whether they're a criminal or not. That number really fluctuates. You have another 40% who don't think anyone should be deported, including the violent criminals. And then you have that middle zone of Americans who very much want the mass deportation agenda implemented, but they're very squeamish when they are confronted with videos of what that looks like. And I think those are the people everyone's going to be fighting for in the midterms.
We don't typically talk about state Senate seats, but in the Texas special election, Democrats got a surprise victory yesterday. They won a state Senate seat in a district that President Trump actually won by 17 points in 2024. What does that say about where American voters are right now? And should the GOP be concerned that a blue wave is already coming?
That candidate is a veteran and a union worker. If every candidate that the Democrats pick from here until 2026, 2028 has that profile, they're going to do very well. The problem is that most of the Democrats now come from this much more kind of focus grouped corporate background, and they don't have that authenticity that voters are really looking for. So that really is what the Democrats should be aiming for if they want to win big in 2026.
Let's talk about one of the major headlines tonight. 5-year-old Liam and his father back home in Minnesota tonight after being released by ICE. We saw that judge's ruling yesterday. That judge wrote a scathing opinion as well. The government does say his father is here illegally. The family's attorney says he has a pending asylum claim. We will watch this play out. But Liam's photo, of course, in that blue bunny hat went viral worldwide. President Trump saying that ICE enforcement will continue in that state. What are your thoughts on the impact of Liam's story?
It's very unfortunate. I mean, of course, your heart goes out to that little boy who, according to DHS, his father ran and abandoned him in the street when he saw the ICE agents, and his mother would not take him in. So this is a child whose parents really, lack for parenting, good parenting there. The problem here is that the message that this sends is that you can break our laws, and if you do so with a child, there will be zero consequences. And I just think that's a really bad message. That is how we got into this situation in the first place. The Biden administration's open border was just unbelievably cruel because it incentivized exactly this kind of behavior. People bringing children into a situation that is unbelievably dangerous with asylum cases that are, this guy doesn't have a legitimate asylum claim. He's from Ecuador. I mean, it's just, it's a very, 95% of the people coming from Central and South America, their asylum claims are, they're not real asylum claims. They are not granted asylum based on our laws. So he may want to stay, but according to our laws, he broke our laws and does not probably qualify for asylum. And so the message that's being sent with this is that the Democrats are so eager to have these photo ops and these postures with a child like Liam that everything then is forgiven and there's no accountability for having broken our laws in the first place. And I think that that's a very bad message to send.
Okay, staying in Minneapolis, Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino has been pulled from his duty. We see Tom Homan, who is in charge of immigration enforcement there now. How does that change the dynamic in Minnesota? Is this beneficial for the Trump administration?
I think it really is. I mean, I think the best thing they could have done would have been to fire Kristi Noem. They don't seem on track to be doing that. But sending in Tom Homan was a great idea. He's a consummate professional. And he signaled in his press conference that they were going to be prioritizing the worst of the worst, the criminals, which is that kind of area where there is more consensus, let's put it that way. There are some reasonable Democrats who believe in deporting illegal illegal migrants. So he's really, and he said also in his press conference that he's going to prioritize professionalism. And I think just articulating that was very important in that moment to taking down the temperature. And I think also we have to give credit to Governor Tim Walz, who seemed willing to meet him halfway.
Batya, I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. You believe that Kristi Noem should be removed from her position?
100%.
Tell me why.
Yeah. She lied to our faces. She defamed the dead. She called Alex Pretti a terrorist and said that he had brandished his gun. And then it took her a week to backtrack on that. A week after we all saw the footage. We saw the footage hours after she made that claim. Her job is to communicate to the American people the strategy and the priorities of DHS, and she lied to our faces. How can we trust anything she says? And to me, you know, we later saw a different video, a different side of Alex Pretti. He was clearly radicalized, but in that video, he was not acting violently. He was resisting arrest, but you know, I don't think he was murdered, but to say that he was brandishing his gun about a very, very delicate, contentious issue, I think that's horrendous. And about a person who can't defend themselves anymore because they're dead, I think she should be fired, yeah.
All right, Batya, speaking plainly, and we appreciate it. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. A reminder to our viewers, you can watch Batya Saturdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central on Saturdays right here on News Nation.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.